All right, we're going to talk about improvisation and autonomy. What on earth do these two things have to do, and why are these two things together? These two things I've noticed are the most complex things to have happen in your leadership, okay, at KidZone, but they are also two things that can drastically improve and change your entire environment at KidZone, okay? Now, I know you're probably thinking like, whoa, those two things don't even go together, and why on earth are we even talking about them? I can assure you, you've probably seen these two things happen, but you haven't been able to identify them. And you're probably wondering to yourself right now, how do we take things to the next level? How do we make them engaging? How do I see my team take more ownership? How on earth do I just grow these things to really reach new levels? That's what we're going to talk about. So let's dive into what we're going to talk about first. Improvisation, okay? So let's talk about the first thing with improvising anything that happens at KidZone. There's always a step before that, which is this: plan. If you don't have a plan, it's not improvisation, it's procrastination. Okay. If you didn't show up with any plan, then guess what? It's not all improvisation. Improvisation is whenever you're saying, I'm going to take the plan and I'm going to adapt it right here on the spot. Something that nobody else had even thought of. And we often think of improvisation as something that happens like in comedy or whatever. But improvisation is very, very important and can be really well done in settings like in KidZone to create some just incredible moments, okay? But here's how you even cultivate improvisation to happen on your team is you have to plan for small opportunities. What do I mean by this? How do you even start to tell your team to just improvise? Because if you just say, get up there and go, just go improvise, go try, just see what happens, you have no idea what's going to happen. You got to plan for some small opportunities here to be able to get to some big, incredible moments. Small opportunities being this. Okay, if we had something with like secret word at the end. All right, very simple format that happens. You go around and you ask questions. But what if I told them, I want you to go up there and I want you to do it in an accent? All right, that seems kind of weird. And that seems kind of small. And that seems very, very confined into what's happening. But for some people, that might be a really big step. Saying, okay, I'm going to... I don't know, I'm going to do something very like British in the moment, okay? Now, they don't have a script. They don't really know what they're doing, but they're just getting up there and they're trying, okay? Might be a bad example, but it's a small one, okay? You have to plan for these really small opportunities to allow people on your team to improvise. And it doesn't always happen on the stage. I've seen it even happen with really great moments whenever we were doing outside services. I had a student come up to me as soon as we got all the kids together, and he's like, I've got a really good idea for a game that we could do with the kids. And I said, all right, let's do it. And that game kept them entertained almost the entire time. It was incredible, but that couldn't have happened if I didn't allow some type of improvisation to the plan to occur. But even with that person, there were a lot of small opportunities that got to that big one, okay? Now, here's another one that you have to do with this. You have to encourage for new ways of things being done. You can't just hold on so tightly that you expect that, man, this script and this structure, if we do not follow this religiously, kids will not get saved, okay? Again, we want to have a plan, but your team needs to trust that they can do something new. They need to trust that whenever you give them the microphone, whenever they're in front of kids, whenever they're leading a small group or they're doing something, that if they do something that's slightly off book, that doesn't break any of the rules, that is not compromising safety or anything like that, or kindness or anything, but whenever they actually start to do things that are new, they're not feeling like you're watching over their shoulder going, what are you doing? And why are you doing it like that? We had a plan. This is the way to do it. Listen, there's times whenever people try new ideas that are just bad. They're just straight up bad. And what you need to do is you need to talk to them and you need to say, okay, I liked that you did something new, but maybe that wasn't the thing to do. Okay? They need to know that when they try something new that they can trust you, that you're not going to shut down ideas immediately. Because, listen, there might be somebody that's got 5 really dumb, bad ideas, but they got one really good one, and that one really good one is exactly what you need. So you need to encourage them to try to do new things. And the last one, you need to provide feedback. So here's the thing. You can't expect that this is just going to happen and people are just going to read your mind and know what's going on. If somebody tries something new on stage, you need to be able to say to them afterwards, like, okay, that was really good. I liked you. I liked that you did that, but let's maybe never do that again. See, I've had times where people say like, I like this, but never do that again. Or it's just, it gets all weird. What you need to do is to provide feedback that will help people. Feedback that will help them be able to take steps. So how do we provide feedback? Sandwich method. Maybe you've heard this in school before, okay? You say a good thing, a bad thing, and then a good thing. Let me give you an example of this. I had a student that came up to me once and they said, okay, I've got an idea. What if for the secret word I had a new character that I have this Jedi robe and I'm going to put a basketball in the back so that it has a hunch and I'm just going to go around and be weird. I told him go for it, okay? And this kid just ran with it immediately. But here was the problem. He was so in character that I think the whole time he maybe asked 2 questions, period. Like he maybe only got 2 guesses out because he was so far in character that nothing good happened, that I was like, I liked the idea of you being in character, but you still need to ask questions. So here's how I said that to him. That was really funny. I liked the way you did that. In the future, if you do that character again, make sure that you're still asking questions to the kid. Very practical, not insulting him, just giving him some feedback so that he can do it better. And then ending it with, but regardless, I think the kids got a real big kick out of that because they haven't seen anybody do anything like that before. That gives that student a lot of encouragement of not only can I try to do more, but I should do more because that's going to really connect with the kids. My leader is encouraging me to do it. I should look for more opportunities to do new things. And look, with kids ministry, we can't afford to keep it stale. We can't afford to keep doing the same thing over and over again. And that's not a knock at consistency. That's a knock at things getting stale after a while. We have to allow improvisation to come in. But there's obviously some challenges with that. So let's talk about the next one, okay? Autonomy, all right? Because improvisation really gets at a lot of our aspects of being in control, of knowing what's going to happen. And autonomy really talks a lot about who has the power and who has the control. So you can see a little bit of why these two link together. But there's some important things to be able to look at with autonomy. The first one is to do this. You need to gauge your meter of control. You need to be able to look and be able to evaluate for yourself, how much control do I have? And I know this sounds like a little bit weird right off the bat, because a lot of people that are controlling don't often realize that they are controlling. Or some people that are controlling just kind of leave it at that and they go like, yeah, I'm a control freak, that's the end of it. It's like, well, wait a second. If we're realizing that there's a problem here, or that my control level is so high up that nobody can do anything, that is a pretty big problem that we need to deal with. But once we figure out that, there's another question we need to ask. I need to gauge my team's independence, okay? Now, I asked myself within the first month, if I was hit by a bus, if something happened to me that made it so that I could not be in the room, that there was other adults present, like that, not a knock at like safety, but if something happened to me, would Kid Zone still run without me? And at that point in time, I said, no, they couldn't. And there's multiple reasons for why things might not. And at that point, like we had just launched and stuff like that, so it would have been unrealistic for us to be at that point. But I very much wanted to get to the point where if I wasn't in the room, things still happened. If I wasn't there, my team still understood enough of the structure, enough of the plan, enough of what was supposed to happen, enough of what I wanted, enough of the values I had communicated, that they were still able to run with those things, and they weren't dependent on me to be able to pull it off. As leaders, it's very easy to be able to say, I have to be there in order for it to happen. And there are times, it's not saying that we don't have a responsibility to be there, but for one day, things should still be able to move along even if I wasn't there. For a lot of the basic things, for the things that we do that are so consistent, people should not have to be so dependent on you that they cannot accomplish anything. And for a while, that's how things functioned for myself while leading Kid Zone. And that's not something that is really healthy, and that's not something that's really good, because there's a lot of things that are better whenever we are able to empower people beneath us. But let's keep going with this. What I need to do whenever I'm realizing that there is a huge gap between the level of control that I have and the level of independence that my team has is I need to really figure out how to evaluate that and how to figure out what's wrong with that gap. Why is that gap existing? Like I said, that gap might just be like they're new. Like we really need to train them up to get them to the point that they're there. But sometimes that gap is I have taken so much power that now my team can't even move. And what I want to do is I want to be right next to my team. I want my team to still be able to respectfully follow me, but I don't need my team to look at it that they can't do anything without me, or that if they do something that they're going to be in trouble, or that I have held on to that much power that, man, no matter what, they're just not able to operate and they're not able to do anything. It gets pretty depressing and it gets pretty tiring sometimes. But let's talk about this last one here. What I need to do is I need to empower and I need to equip. I cannot tell you how much research I've done on this point of just even different countries that have tried this, different organizations, churches, secular businesses. Whenever you give power over to people and allow them to feel like they are slightly in control of some of the situation, they take way more ownership. If you're wondering why certain people on your team just won't step up to the plate, it might be because you haven't empowered them. It might be because you haven't really encouraged them and been able to give them the opportunities they needed to feel like I'm a part of this and I am really able to contribute to this. I've seen it, and I've been the team member that's felt like, you don't want me to do anything. You just want me to sit around here and not like actually be engaged with what's happening. And if I can maybe somehow figure out what you want, then I'll be able to do it. It's tricky and it's difficult to always follow it and be able to understand it. But quite frankly, we need to be empowering and we need to be able to equip people. Now, I know that sounds very tricky because especially as leaders, it's like, well, wait a second. What am I supposed to do? Well, quite frankly, you will see that as a leader, you will be able to do a lot more if you distribute power, if you distribute control. If you're saying, I don't have to have all of it on me, you're going to realize this is a lot more fun. I'm able to do a lot more. My team's able to do a lot more. We're able to do things we never could do before because our proficiency has just increased. Our morale has increased. There's such a big difference whenever you allow your team to have improvisation and autonomy working with them. Now, I know those kind of seem like some big theoretical kind of ideas of how exactly we do that. So talk some more with your kids zone director or your growth coach a little bit more on how to do that, because it will change everything in your kids zone team if you allow those two things to really become cultivated factors that are there every week.